This is actually several positions on our trial calendar. Page. Positions 14, 15, and 16, all involving Mr. Wolfe. Mr. Wolfe is here in court. Good morning, sir. Good morning. And Mr. Wolfe's attorney, Mr. Menendez, is on the screen. You see him there on the screen? Yes. Mr. Wolfe, you have the right to have your lawyer right by your side in case you have any questions for him. Mr. Menendez told me that he's spoken with you and that you knew that he'd be appearing remotely. If for some reason you need to speak with him in private, we'll figure out a way to do it. It'll be a little complicated. I may need to get everyone out of the courtroom, but Mr. Menendez assures me that he's talked to you about what we're doing today and that you're ready to go forward. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If at some point you've got a question for me or for your lawyer, just let me know and we'll work through that. All right. Okay. As I understand it, you are going to be entering a plea to a new case that wraps up your three other cases. And that new accusation number is 23 SC 189496. And if I accept your plea to the charges in this document, then the state will be dismissing or null processing your other three cases. Is that correct, Mr. Hiles?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Then I think I'm oriented to what's going on. When you're ready, Mr. Hiles, let's get started.
Okay. And let me outline the plea for you. And I know the family is on. And they would like to address the court. I will let them know when it's time to speak. And just since they're on, I want them to know that this is not a new case per se that he's pleading to. It's a new case number that encompasses two separate incident dates.
Sure. And to be clear, it's not new charges. I mean, they may be written in a different way, but it is a different way of charging, of accusing some of the alleged criminal conduct for which Mr. Wolfe has already been charged and for which he's been in jail for a year and a half or more. Okay.
Okay, and Your Honor, this will be a plea to 4 counts of violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act, with the count 1, the underlying act being murder, count 2, the underlying act being aggravated battery, count 3, the underlying crime being theft by receiving, and count 4, the underlying crime being possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. The negotiated plea, and we'll elaborate in the factual basis as to, for the reason for the negotiations, is 25 years to serve the first 15 years in custody with the balance of 10 years on probation. The special conditions are that the defendant have no contact with any known criminal street gang members, that the defendant do not refrain from any participation in criminal street gang activity, that he possessed no weapons or replicas thereof. In the negotiations, I did speak with Attorney Menendez and agreed that after 5 years of the probated sentence, not including any potential parole, after 5 years of the probated sentence, he could petition the court for early termination if he has no violations of special conditions nor any violations of the law.
Okay.
Mr. Wolfe, will you please raise your right hand to the best of your ability? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give in the matter currently before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, you can put your hand down. I know you're a taller gentleman, so if you could please speak into the mic, and I need yes or no answers.
Oh, yes.
Because there's a court reporter that is taking down everything else. Okay.
I got you.
All right. Will you please state your true, correct, and legal name?
Ricky Wolfe.
Are you at this time taking or under the influence of any alcohol, drugs, or medicine?
No.
Is there any medication that you normally take that you have not been given today?
No.
How old are you?
26.
What is your highest level of education that you have completed?
Freshman year of college.
Okay. Are you able to read, write, and understand the English language?
Yes.
Have you gone over the 4 charges that you will be pleading to with your attorney, Mr. Menendez?
Yes.
And do you understand that each of the 4 counts of the violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Acts carry with it a potential sentence range of 5 to 20 years?
Yes.
Do you understand that you have the right to plead either guilty or not guilty to these charges?
Yes.
And do you understand that if you plead not guilty or remain silent, you may receive a jury trial?
Yes.
And have you discussed the fact that you are proceeding? Well, the judge just discussed that with you, but you are acknowledging that and waiving your right to have your attorney present, correct?
Yes.
Have you had enough time to speak with your attorney about all the facts and circumstances known to you regarding the charges in this accusation 23 SC 189496?
Yes.
You need any more time to speak to your attorney?
No.
Are you satisfied with your attorney services?
Yes.
Mr. Menendez, do you waive formal reading of this accusation?
Yes, sir. So waived.
And Mr. Menendez, do you waive any and all defects in this accusation, including any with respect to your client's name?
Yes, sir. So waived.
Mr. Wolfe, do you understand that this is a negotiated plea of guilty, which means that the joint recommendation of the state and the defense will be the sentence of 25 years to serve 15 years with the balance on probation and the special conditions just relayed to the court before the plea? Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you understand, however, that the court does not have to accept the recommendation and the court can sentence you to the maximum on each charge and can run those sentences consecutively or one after the other?
Yes.
Do you understand that this plea may be used to enhance sentencing on other convictions in this jurisdiction, as well as in other jurisdictions, including in the federal courts? Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Do you understand that you are currently on probation or parole? Your probation or parole may be revoked based on you entering a guilty plea. Do you understand?
Yes.
You understand that if you are placed on probation of any kind, you cannot violate any criminal laws of any governmental unit or any special conditions of probation without being subject to revocation for the balance of your sentence. Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you understand that you are absolutely not allowed to possess nor use firearms while on probation, and that your status as a convicted felon prohibits you from possessing firearms unless and until your rights are restored? Do you understand?
Yes.
Mr. Wolfe, are you a United States citizen?
Yes.
Mr. Wolfe, do you understand that there may be other adverse or unfavorable consequences as a result of this guilty plea conviction, just as there would be from a conviction following trial? For example, your guilty plea may affect the right to vote, the right to hold public office, the right to serve on a jury, the right to obtain a passport, the right to receive, possess, or transport a firearm, or the ability to obtain employment. Do you understand?
Yes.
You understand that by pleading guilty to a felony, if you use, receive, possess, or transport a firearm, you will be guilty of a subsequent felony that carries with it a potential sentence of 1 to 5 years. And do you understand?
Yes.
And do you understand that if you, from going forward, if you use a firearm during the commission of a crime, you will be guilty of a felony, which may carry a sentence of 1 to 15 years in prison? Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you understand that you waive any and all defenses, including any mental health defenses, by entering a plea of guilty? Do you understand?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to go through a series of rights individually with you, one at a time, that are known as your Boykin rights. Mr. Wolfe, do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up the right to trial by jury? Yes. Mr. Wolfe, do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up the right to remain silent and not incriminate yourself?
Yes.
Mr. Wolfe, do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up the right to confront witnesses against you?
Yes.
Mr. Wolfe, do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up the right to the assistance of counsel hired by you or to court-appointed counsel if you cannot afford an attorney at a trial of your case?
Yes.
Mr. Wolfe, do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up the right to the presumption of innocence?
Yes.
Mr. Wolfe, do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up the right to testify on your own behalf and present other evidence? Do you understand?
Yes.
Mr. Wolfe, do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up the right to subpoena witnesses and compel the production of evidence?
Yes.
Mr. Wolfe, do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up the right to have the charges against you proved beyond a reasonable doubt? Do you understand?
Yes.
And Mr. Wolfe, do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up the right to appeal if convicted of these charges after a trial? Do you understand?
Yes.
Has anyone forced, threatened, or promised you anything to get you to enter into this guilty plea?
No.
Is it your decision to waive these rights and enter a guilty plea because you're in fact guilty?
Yes.
Mr. Wolfe, how do you plead to counts 1 through 4 in accusation 23 SC 189496, each count being a violation of the Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act?
Guilty.
Is this guilty plea freely and voluntarily given with full knowledge of the charges against you?
Yes.
Do you understand that you have only a limited right to appeal this guilty plea conviction?
Yes.
Do you understand that unless counsel is substituted or permitted to withdraw, Mr. Menendez, your defense attorney, will represent you until either the end of the current term of court or 30 days from today's date, whichever is later? Do you understand?
Yes.
You understand that you have only 4 years from today for these felony charges to file what is known as a habeas corpus petition challenging the voluntariness of this guilty plea. Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you understand you have until the last day of the current term of court to file a motion to withdraw your guilty plea? Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you understand that any of the filings we've just discussed must be filed by your counsel unless you are representing yourself? Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, counts 1 and 2 are from an incident date that occurred on September 23rd, 2019. Counts 3 and 4 are from an incident date that occurred on December 15th of 2019. I'm going to start with the September 23rd, 2019 incident.
Okay.
Your Honor, on September 23rd, 2019, at approximately 1300 hours, Ricky Wolfe and an unidentified male fatally shot Melvin Robinson in the parking lot of the Lowe's hardware store at 3625 North Commerce Drive in Eastpoint, Georgia. Also shot was Melvin Robinson's friend, Mr. Clint Flakes. When officers responded to the scene, they found Mr. Melvin Robinson unresponsive in the parking lot of the Lowe's with several .40 caliber shell casings surrounding him. Mr. Robinson was clinging to life and was taken to Grady Hospital, where he passed away from his injuries 3 days later. Investigator Ricky Mashad of the Eastpoint Police Department was the lead investigator. I'm sorry, of Mr. Ricky Mashad was the lead investigator.
Can you spell his last name for the record?
Michaud. So during his investigation, Mr. Mashad initially spoke with Tommy Kirkly, who was in the vehicle with both Clint Flakes and Melvin Robinson just prior to the shooting. While the 3 individuals were in Mr. Robinson's pickup truck, an unidentified black male attempted to open the car door that was occupied by Mr. Robinson, Mr. Flakes, and Mr. Tommy Kirkly. The perpetrator quickly realized that the car was occupied and then got into a black Nissan Maxima and drove to the opposite side of the Lowe's parking lot. It's a very large parking lot. Mr. Robinson then called police to report the attempted break-in. Mr. Robinson then drove his pickup truck to the other side of the parking lot where the individual that got out of the black Nissan Maxima was attempting to break in to another pickup truck. Mr. Robinson and Mr. Flakes exited the vehicle, and Mr. Robinson had positioned his pickup truck in a way that the black Nissan Maxima was blocked in between a concrete lamppost and the Dodge Ram driven by Mr. Robinson. At which time, 5 shots rang out. 5 .40 caliber shell casings were recovered, and along with another handgun, which was recovered from the scene. Mr. Kirkly stated that he was asleep or not paying attention in the back seat, and that when he heard the gunfire, he quickly ducked down and was unable to identify any of the perpetrators. It was later determined that the firearm that was recovered was the firearm belonging to Clint Flakes. Mr. Flakes later gave a statement stating that he had given the firearm to Mr. Melvin Robinson to encourage him to stop the robbery. After Mr. Flakes was shot, he was shot in the face and he went into the Lowe's department store to seek help, where as he entered, he dropped a machete-like object on the floor, which was recovered next to the blood trail. Mr. Flakes was unable to identify any of the perpetrators and stated later that the perpetrators were possibly wearing a mask. There is a pole camera from the parking lot that is grainy and distant, but it does show the sequences of events that happened. However, there's not any identifying indications of the potential 2 suspects in the Maxima. In an attempt to try to figure out the perpetrator, Investigator Mashad was able to get the cell tower logs of all of the major cell phone carriers in the area of the Lowe's parking lot. At a later date, he then discovered that the particular Maxima that was suspected in the shooting at Lowe's was involved in a entering auto where a purse was stolen, and that Maxima was also itself stolen 2 days prior in Union City. While Investigator Mashad was waiting on the returns from the cell phone tower dumps, the Maxima that was suspected in the murder was burned at a rail yard in City of Atlanta on October 3rd, 2019, for which fellow gang member Emory Batten was charged. Emory Batten, before Mr. Wolfe became a suspect, was the original suspect in the homicide. He was seen in a silver stolen Range Rover on Instagram the day the car was burned on October 3rd. And then the silver Range Rover was seen following the black car into the rail yard in the early morning hours, just after 1:30 a.m. Just after 1:30, where rail worker Johnny Campbell saw the cars enter, heard an explosion, and then saw the cars burning and the Range Rover speeding away. That Range Rover later hit a LPR about 6 miles away as it fled. The Emory Batten's cell phone records put him away from the homicide at the time of the homicide. However, there was Emory Batten received a phone call from a number that was later determined to belong to Ricky Wolfe. Once the cell phone tower logs were returned, that same cell phone number that called Emory Batten directly after the murder appeared in the area of the stolen Maxima, in the area of the entering auto, in the area of the homicide, around the times of the homicide. Investigator Mashad then went and got the cell phone records of that particular number, and that cell phone was registered to Mr. Ricky Wolfe. Getting more detailed copies of the records directly before the homicide, the phone number was bouncing off a tower in the parking lot of the Lowe's convenience store or department store, and it was in that area for about 45 minutes prior to the homicide. Directly after the homicide, the car flees westward, makes an immediate phone call to Emory Batten, and then 2 hours later, that phone number is disconnected permanently. Your Honor, Investigator Mashad was able to determine that both Emory Batten and Ricky Wolfe were members of the 27 Unos criminal street gang. In trying to figure out additional leads, he was able to obtain both of their Instagram records, which then led to obtaining Instagram records for about 19 other 27 Unos co-defendants, which led to several other auto theft arrests and convictions. However, Mr. Wolfe was not apprehended until much later in December of that year. And at the time he was arrested around December of 2019, he was not yet developed as a suspect. It took another 2 years for police continuing to look for additional identifying information, additional evidence, whether that be ID, fingerprints, or a tip, before they didn't believe that they were not going to get any more evidence. And charges were brought in 2022. That would be the factual basis for the charges in counts 1 and 2 of the accusation. I should also say that Mr. Flakes was shot in the jaw and tongue, rendering his jaw useless for several days. Moving on to counts 3 and 4, on December 15th of 2019, Ricky Wolfe and one of his fellow gang members were spotted on Instagram in a stolen Kia Sorento. Officers went to the area they believed the car was located. A police officer found the car traveling on I-20 and tailed the car from a distance, believing that the car would potentially run. When it was blue lighted, the officers waited for the assistance of the Phoenix helicopter. This being December 15th, 2019. Phoenix helicopter was able to get in the air. The car did flee once it was blue lighted. The car drove to the area of Hollywood Road and Spink Street in Fulton County, where it then all the passengers inside abandoned the vehicle. The other passengers were juveniles, Terrence Cole, Desmond Lindsay, and Rontavious Johnson. The driver of the car was followed the entire time by the Phoenix and was captured, and driver was Ricky Wolfe. The other three juveniles were recovered in the crawl space of a garage apartment in the area at the same time. The car, in the front seat of the car, in specifically the driver's seat, there was a handgun and a window punch commonly used in the entering autos. There was also mail from several individuals that was not belonging to any of the individuals in the car. The owner of that Kia Sorento had the car stolen from her out of Union City days prior, that being a 2016 black Kia Sorento owned by Gabrielle Davis. Your Honor, Mr. Wolfe is a 27 Unos member. They are known for slider crimes, for stealing autos, and then using those stolen autos to commit further crimes, much like the incident outlined here. The Emery Batten is a confirmed member who was his co-defendant in the homicide and the destruction of evidence, as well as the Mr. Desmond Lindsay, Rontavious Johnson, and Terrence Cole, all confirmed members of 27 Unos. Your Honor, that would be the basic factual basis should this case have gone to trial.
Very thorough. Thank you. Does Ms. McKinney or anyone else want to be heard now?
So I think now Ms. McKinney did email me a written statement, but if she wants to speak, this would be her time to speak, or if she would prefer that I read the statement, I can do that as well.
Sure. Good morning, Ms. McKinney. This is Judge McBurney, and I'm happy to hear from you directly, or if you would prefer that Mr. Hiles read your victim impact statement into the record. Either one works for me. This is your opportunity to share with me and the public that's plugged into this hearing the impact that these crimes have had on you and your family. And as I said, I can hear that directly from you or from Mr. Hiles.
Good morning, Your Honor. I would prefer to speak directly.
Okay.
So, Your Honor, this is a collective statement on behalf of our family. Our family believes it's important to remind the court of who Melvin was as a person, and the fact that he was murdered during an act of bravery. He was performing a good deed on behalf of an innocent shopper in the Lowe's parking lot. Melvin was a protector of his community, his family, his friends. He was loyal to his family as an involved father to two of his young sons, who, really looked up to him as, their everyday hero. He was loyal to his friends who looked up to him as for guidance as a leader, and he was loyal to his community as an admired businessman. He also was a student obtaining his PhD, and then his life was cut short. On Monday, September 23rd, he went about his daily routine of dropping his 7- and 8-year-old sons off at school. He spoke to his fiance, his parents, his sister, his brother, his employees, just like any other day, except that day was the last time. In 3 days, it will be 4 years since Melvin was stolen from us. And the void in all of our lives from Melvin not being here will never be filled. There's a hole in our chest with relentless silence and spaces that used to be filled with joy and laughter. As children continue to struggle with understanding why their father was taken from them. He was doing something right. Melvin made daily choices to use his life to create an impact that made a positive difference for himself and those around him. The defendants made the choice to use their life to join a gang and participate daily and kept causing chaos, disruption, violence in their community for no reason other than just something to do today. They made the choice to be career criminals and jeopardize the safety of innocent people that were just going about their daily lives. And they are in this courtroom before you today because they, like countless other days, made the conscious decision on September 23rd to not just steal property, but to permanently take Melvin's life. Three months after taking Melvin's life, the defendants were involved in performing the same criminal acts. In December 2019, that proves they had no remorse for anything they had done just 3 months prior. The defendants need to be held accountable for their actions and made to face the consequences for causing irreparable havoc to the community and our family. There is no limit to the years of prison time that would equate to the worth of Melvin's life. While in prison, the defendants will be able to speak to their family and friends, laugh at their jokes, participate in birthdays, Christmases, and tell and see others that love them. They have rights to a quality of life that will allow them to continue to enjoy the world around them, while Melvin has no life. He can't experience the same for his life and his family, and that is due to the decisions of these two defendants. We, the Robinson family, ask that you please take all of what you learned today into consideration and make the decision to ensure the defendants face the maximum possible sentencing so they don't get the opportunity to make the choice to violate and the safety and freedom of another family. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McKinney. Can you please share with me two things? One, what was your relationship, sibling, friend, what, to Mr. Robinson?
His fiance.
Fiance. All right. And
his children.
how many children?
He has
I'm sorry.
two.
Two. How old are they?
They were 7 and 8 at the time, and now they're 11 and 13.
Okay. And you all are now outside the state of Georgia?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm assuming that's Mr. Robinson that we see on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Ms. McKinney, thank you for sharing. What you've helped me understand is sort of a composite reflection of friends and family members and the impact this has had on all of them, not just you and your children, and the loss that everyone continues to experience.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Hardy, can you share with me, please, the criminal history information you have, if any, on Mr. Wolfe?
This defendant has 10 arrest cycles out of Georgia, no felony convictions and 1 probation violation. Nothing further to report.
So it would be a misdemeanor probation violation?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And Ms. Tucson, do you have any records for Mr. Wolfe? I'll take that as no. Mr. Menendez, what do you want to share about Mr. Wolfe and his situation and all that we've heard this morning?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I do appreciate the state for engaging with us and allowing us to resolve this. It's my understanding, I advise Mr. Wolfe that he'll be pleading guilty to these gang charges. Now he'll be sentenced under a level 5 severity where that'll follow the parole guidelines of the time, not the ones that changed this past July. And then there'll be subsequent parole after that for the rest of the 15 years, and then subsequent probation for 10 years the last 5 of which might terminate if he's had no violations. And Mr. Wolfe is not going to come before this court again, Judge. It's been a very intricate negotiation process with the state, and we appreciate them and this court for that platform, and we just accept this honorable court to accept the plea as negotiated.
All right. Mr. Hiles, what is the sentencing range for these 4 charges?
Each charge carries with a sentence range of 5 to 20 years.
So I'll need to stack something to get to 25 to do 15?
Yes, Your Honor. So the, I guess, count.
I'll structure it however, but what you've negotiated doesn't bind me, but what you all have negotiated is 25 to serve 15. And I need to do some kind of consecutiveness to make that work across the 4 counts.
That's correct. Your Honor.
Okay, got it. Mr. Wolfe, this is your plea and sentencing hearing, not anyone else's. And in the very same way that it was important for me to hear from Ms. McKinney on behalf of Mr. Robinson's family, I want to give you the chance to say anything. If there's anything you want to say, you can rely on what Mr. Menendez had to say, but you have a right to be heard as well.
I just want to say I apologize to Mr. Robinson's family for what happened. And I'm a changed person.
What's changed?
People died around me in jail. Like, a lot been going on. People being stabbed. Like, it's changed my life.
How long have you been at Rice Street?
19 months.
Okay. Anything else?
That's all.
All right. Well, Mr. Wolfe, yes, sir.
If I could quickly add, I can't remember if I failed to say this or not, but that the negotiation is with credit for time served for those 19 months.
Okay, yeah, I think he's entitled to that. I'm familiar with the progression of these cases, and Mr. Wolfe has been in custody in connection with these allegations and a related case for all those months. And so I think he is legally entitled to that as credit. So, Mr. Wolfe, I find there's a factual basis for your plea. You're pleading to one case, this case ending in 496. And it's my understanding, Mr. Hiles, that when we're done here today, you are making an oral motion to null pros the 3 cases on the calendar, going in numerical order: 19 SC 173484, 20 SC 177222, and then 23 SC 186399. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so those will all go away. Mr. Wolfe will enter a plea, is entering a plea to the case ending in 496, and he'll move forward with the sentence that he gets. Okay.
And you're just to perfect the record that lastly, the dismissals are with prejudice, is my understanding.
Sure. I mean, I don't know that we do that on the criminal side. I will be signing a null pros. And so they are dismissed.
They were made as part of the negotiation, so they cannot be brought back.
Okay. That would be inconsistent with the state's negotiations if they sought to pursue those charges in some other format. All right, back to where I was. I do find that there's a factual basis for your plea. I also find that your plea is knowing and voluntary. Voluntary means no one's threatened you to enter this plea, but you've decided after consulting with your lawyer and maybe family members that the right way forward for you, Mr. Wolfe, is to plead guilty. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And a knowing plea means that you've understood all the things we talked about because you've had a chance to speak with Mr. Menendez. Do you have any questions about anything we've discussed so far?
No, sir.
All right. I'm sentencing you pursuant to the Probation Option Management Act, which means that when you are on parole or probation, and you'll likely be on both over time, if you have a minor violation of your probation, you miss a meeting or something like that, that will go to probation for you to work out. But if it is more serious, you get arrested, anything like that, or you violate any of the special conditions that I'm about to set, that will come back to me. Mr. Menendez, may we sign your name electronically to this new accusation to which your client is pleading guilty?
Yes, Your Honor, you may.
Mr. Hiles, can we sign for you?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Wolfe, is it okay if we electronically sign your name to the new case to which you're pleading guilty?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Wolfe, I am going to sentence you on counts 1, 2, and 3 of this accusation to 18 years to serve. And on count 4, I'm going to sentence you to 10 years. That'll run consecutive to count 1, and that will be probated. So your total sentence is 28 years to serve 18 years with a balance on probation. 3 special conditions of probation. Number 1, no contact with folks who you know to be in gangs. 2, no participation in gang-related activity. And 3, no possession of actual firearms or replica firearms while you are on probation. I am sentencing you this way because I think it more accurately reflects the seriousness of what happened in this case. I mean, in one respect, a life was taken and a sentence of life is what would be appropriate. It was helpful to hear the state's evidence in this case. I think there are defenses that Mr. Menendez would be able to bring on your behalf if this went to trial in terms of identification, and the fact that your cell phone is present doesn't mean that you're present at the scene of the killing of Mr. Robinson and the aggravated battery against Mr. Flakes. But what I do see unequivocally and very clearly is that you were in this mix and being connected with a situation which resulted in the death of someone didn't deter you from doing the same kind of stuff. I don't mean shooting people, but breaking into cars, driving stolen cars, high-speed chase with the police. It wasn't a one-off for you. It was a way of life. And so I actually take some reassurance from you saying not just you're sorry, which you should be, but that you're going to live your life in a different way. The life that you were leading back in 2019, 2020 is one that was dangerous to others and frankly, dangerous to you. I'm confident that people you know were shot and killed because of the way they were living their lives. It's not easy to make change. You knew what you knew because you grew up in it and you lived in it. But I am hopeful that when you complete your sentence, and there's light at the end of your tunnel. I mean, the big contrast that Ms. McKinney drew for us is an important one because there isn't light at the end of Mr. Robinson's tunnel. His tunnel ended in that Lowe's parking lot. You're going to get out. You're going to get out and you're going to plug in with people. And I hope for you, it's a different set of people than you were plugged into when you committed these crimes. I can't bring Mr. Robinson back. I can't fill that hole in the heart of all the folks who loved and cared for Mr. Robinson. But what this process is hopefully doing for his family is bringing about some closure. They know that people have listened and people care. And there are consequences for the actions that resulted in his senseless death. That'll be your sentence. You will get credit for every day that you've been in custody. We're on past 500 and something, but all those days will be credited to your sentence. Mr. Menendez, anything else on behalf of Mr. Wolfe?
Yes, Your Honor, I would just ask this honorable court to reconsider the confinement aspect of the deviation that the court's made. The 15 years was part of a pretty intricate bargaining process that involved a lot of moving parts. And we do hear the court in terms of everything that the court feels and heard. And we'd ask, could we please have the 15 years stay the same and then add some kind of special conditions or probation to the back end instead of altering the confinement portion, because that was a pretty big centerpiece of the negotiation process.
Okay. Mr. Hiles, anything you want to add?
I'm going to leave this to the court's discretion.
Okay. I didn't think you were going to disagree with Mr. Menendez. I understand that you all have been negotiating this. One person who was not part of the negotiations, appropriately so and necessarily so, would be me. And having heard everything I heard, I believe that this is a reasonable sentence that reflects the seriousness of what happened and is where we end up. So, Mr. Wolfe, I wish you the best. You will get out of Rice Street real soon. I'll make sure that you get on into DOC custody, so you are out of the environment where you have seen the kinds of things that hopefully will help shape the way you move forward. Okay?
All right.
Thank you.